Let's get more from one of the top analysts on the stock. We have Takeo Miyamoto of Deutsche Securities joining us from Tokyo this morning. And his calls on Toshiba have generated 33% returns just in the past year. Miyamoto-san, thank you for making time for us on this Thursday. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Now, you heard Mike Fern's report there talking about Toshiba's nuclear power business. How important is that to Toshiba? Because it is segmented. It has other businesses. But let's just focus in on nuclear power first off.
I think the nuclear is definitely the pillar, and the stability of its earnings is definitely different from the semiconductor. And this is what Toshiba can rely on for the next maybe 5 or 10 years or maybe more. So I think this is definitely the most important business for Toshiba.
Okay, well, let me just ask you then, what about the Westinghouse deal? It seems that people criticize that acquisition at the time, but it now looks like it's paying off. So, looking back in hindsight, 2020 here, was this a good move for Toshiba?
I think it was a very timely and a good decision. And as you say, that back in 2006, the investors were saying that it's better off buying the U.S. Treasury than buying Westinghouse. But now everyone talks about the future opportunity for the nuclear. And I believe that the revenue will grow further in the coming years. So that I think this is definitely the right decision at the right timing.
Yeah, so if the nuclear business is going to grow in the coming years, do you think it will overtake, the chip building, memory chip business for Toshiba as its main growth driver?
Their characteristics is completely different. Memory is very cyclical still. Although we believe that the NAND flash business, the memory will grow further, but we should expect some cyclical downturn in the future. Whereas nuclear, we can rely on for stable growth. So I think that it's difficult to compare. It's a different, we're comparing apple to orange in this case.
Okay, well, let's talk about Toshiba as a whole, because you have a buy rating on this company. You have a 12-month target of 650 yen. Let me just ask you, how much do you think its nuclear business will contribute in the future to, say, share price gains?
Earnings itself is more predictable, so I think it's been priced in. But the new project wins, like in Europe or in the Middle East or in Asia, that will be the driver for the upside to the share price from the nuclear business.
Okay, and Toshiba, don't forget, will report Q3 results at the end of this month. What are your forecasts right now for Toshiba's Q3 sales, its income, and do you think it might raise its full-year forecast?
Third quarter revenue, I'm focusing about 1.6 trillion yen in revenue, but which is not very important. And operating profit, which investors focuses on, we expect about 25 billion. But I think the full year upper revision is unlikely to happen. And the third quarter number is slightly disappointing to many investors. So I think I'm a little bit short term, a little bit cautious on the Toshiba's stock price.
Oh, okay. Would you be thinking of reducing your weighting or your rating on the stock?
Having said that, short term, it's slightly negative, but I believe that the investors has a very strong conviction in the long-term growth of Toshiba. So I think that it's rather a buy on weakness stance.
Okay. Now, one more question for you, Miyamoto-san, is, as I mentioned, Areva and Toshiba are probably the two biggest names in terms of building these nuclear power plants. Areva still being bigger than Toshiba. So what does Toshiba need to do to jump over that hurdle to get number one?
Jump onto number one will be difficult because Areva has the sort of the upstream to downstream. I mean that from the uranium mine exploitation to the waste treatment. So those areas that Toshiba is relatively weak. So maybe if there's any potential, those upstream or downstream area will be the one that Toshiba may move on. And then I think Toshiba can be equivalent company as Areva.
Miyamoto-san, thank you so much for your time. Takeo Miyamoto of Deutsche Securities.